Other notable transfer news: Peyton Thorne, quarterback formerly at Michigan State, finds a home on the Plains at Auburn. He's going to compete with Robbie Ashford, who, look, gosh, I know a lot of people are rooting for Ashford to be the guy, or at least were before Thorne transferred, because it meant that TJ Finley wasn't the guy. TJ Finley has since entered the transfer portal. He's looking for a new home. I think his arm, Thorns, that is a big add for Auburn, although I don't know totally what that wide receiver core will look like yet. They're young. I don't believe they have a ton of like super proven guys on that roster. Although another guy that you just mentioned in Montana, Lamonius Craig, heading out from Colorado, there's a lot of smoke around him going to Auburn. I think that would be a big pickup for the Tigers. Who, listen, they were bad last year and they've struggled the last couple of seasons. Auburn might not be the doormat under Hugh Freeze the way that he's recruiting.
Well, and also they get to retain the guy that kind of turned some stuff around internally with Cadillac Williams, which I think is huge for Auburn. Being able to retain him, keep him on staff,
Yeah.
keep that kind of heart and soul of the revival. This is the exact opposite of what Auburn actually did. They kept the majority of that team. They've kept a lot of pieces in place. They're still the number 4 transfer class right now. And yeah, you're right. They're looking at Montana Lamonius Craig and extended an offer to Keon Coleman, who is
Yep.
the former wide receiver one for Peyton Thorne at Michigan State. So you get Keon Coleman, you get Montana Lamonius Craig in there. You could be looking at a pretty solid receivers core. In addition to the fact that I actually looked through their transfer class earlier, they're bringing in a lot of pieces from the SEC. Like they're kind of just picking from everyone's roster. I think they got an edge guy from Vanderbilt. They picked up another D lineman, I think, from Kentucky. A couple of linebackers, in there. So they've picked up some really good pieces in the portal. And Hugh Freeze, love him or hate him, think he's a scumbag, whatever. I don't care what you think. I'm sure you Ole Miss fans have some opinions on him and his integrity. But for all you may want to say about Hugh Freeze, he's a good coach. He's succeeded
Yeah.
just about everywhere he's gone. And I think he's going to have Auburn competing. You get a better quarterback in there in Peyton Thorne, right? You get some talented wide receivers, maybe keep things a little bit better. I think that Auburn could look pretty solid next year. And the thing that's going to hold them back ultimately is just how strong the SEC West really is, right? The SEC West still bringing back a lot of pieces. I know Alabama, we've talked about them maybe being in a little bit of trouble, maybe being a little bit down. They're still Alabama. Nick Saban's still going to field a good team. Obviously with Ole Miss bringing in a new quarterback, we saw what Mississippi State did last year. Will Rogers returning. The Arkansas has their quarterback coming back. LSU has their quarterback coming back. LSU looks to be out in front of everybody right now. A&M, not to mention, there's still plenty of talent on that roster. There's a lot of really good teams in that SEC West. Auburn, of course, having the issue of playing Georgia as their yearly opponent across the division. It's going to be tough to be a winner at Auburn regardless. But if anybody can do it, I think it's Hugh Freeze, and he certainly has them on a good path starting off in 2023.
Not breaking news, but it's happened since we were on the air. So for folks that are listening to this first thing, you'll see the headlines for this. Kansas State reportedly close to finalizing a $44 million 8-year deal with head coach Chris Kleiman. It's big news
Fantastic.
for the Cats, who are trying to establish themselves at the top of the new world
Nice.
order, if you will, the new Big 12. We'll wait till that goes official to kind of break that down, but I think that would be a great signing for Kansas State. Back to the transfer stuff, though. Ben Bryant goes from Cincinnati to Northwestern. Northwestern's been really good about getting veteran transfer quarterbacks taking one run at a Big 12 title game, or a Big 10 title game, excuse me, and then kind of fading to the background. So, maybe Coach Fitzgerald knows what he's doing, and Ben Bryant can bring something. We talked about Peyton Thorne. Keon Coleman, you mentioned, Michigan State wide receiver one. Sparty's got issues. We talked about that last week. It's really strange to watch Michigan State just lose key players after the spring game. Keon Coleman now has 59 schools who have reached out to him about coming to play. Two other guys, actually three other guys. One guy I really want to get to. Casey Thompson has not officially done anything yet. He visited Auburn, but Peyton Thorne pulled the trigger there first. And then cornerback Trey Amos, who's getting a lot of Power 5 offers in his first day in the portal. He's in there as well. Of course, formerly coached by Billy Napier. Maybe he goes to Florida, who would love some more secondary help. Guy I want to chat about very quickly, and then we'll move to our last topic of the day in the SEC East. Zachary Franklin, leading wide receiver for UTSA, one of the all-time greats to go through that young program down there in San Antonio. Surprise portal entry. He had 1,300 yards receiving last year for a conference championship UTSA Roadrunners. He's been rumored to Oregon. That would be a huge blow to Meep Meep Nation. It would be a great pickup for Oregon.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic. I think we've all had a pretty good time rooting for UTSA the last couple of years. Kind of, we're a Texas podcast. We're based in the state. We like keeping up with those teams, and obviously he's been fantastic since he's been there. And I hate saying it for him, but I'm hoping he gets more exposure. Right? I don't want to do that to UTSA, but I just feel like getting more exposure helps his draft stock, helps his ability to go and really flourish. And it's not to say that UTSA is nobody. That's not what we're saying. Obviously, they've had some success there. They had that, his name's escaping me, but the defender that got drafted a couple years ago. And look,
Marcus Davenport.
Yeah, right. But they're a really good program. They're definitely moving in the right direction. Just really want more exposure for him because he's been a lot of fun to watch. Him going up to Oregon, I think, puts them in a really good position. Not that Oregon isn't good already, but having another big threat wide receiver for Bo Nix to toss the ball to would be a lot of fun to watch. So I didn't see any news on where he was going. If Oregon is the team eventually, that's, I think, what I'm officially rooting for. Be a pretty big pickup for them, obviously. Obviously tough for UTSA, but it's kind of the game when you're a group of 5 conference team and you're trying to rise up. You get a guy that, really shows out, still has eligibility. That's the portal right now. So it's tough, but it makes sense.
It absolutely is. Yeah, good and bad. Good and bad. We keep commenting on it. Not ideal for UTSA. It would be ideal for the Ducks.
Right.
Gracious him. How about that?